Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about the Infant Attachment Discussion Board for Child Development Semester 1. And I first just want to briefly go over the directions and point out a couple things to make sure that everyone understands what is required for this assignment. And so with this discussion board, what is asked of you is to answer the following question. Some babies are fussier or harder to care for than others. How could you support or encourage a caretaker with a difficult baby? And then the directions want you to describe at least 2 strategies that would be good for the caregiver to use, and then explain why those strategies would be good. Why would they be beneficial? What help would those strategies give the caretaker? And then with all discussion boards to respond to one or more of your classmates' posts. And want to just briefly go over the rubric. And so to get in that exceeds expectation part of the rubric, the student needs to answer the question explaining more than 2 strategies, describing the idea and why they chose the idea, using 3 or more complete sentences for each strategy. So notice 3 or more complete sentences for each strategy that is discussed. So if you're talking about 3 strategies, then you should have at least 9 sentences. Then to get in the meets expectation part, the student posts an answer to the question explaining 2 strategies, describing them, and then why they would be helpful. And then with this one, each strategy is answered with at least 2 complete sentences. So you would have at least 4 sentences for the meets expectation. Not yet is that not 2 strategies are not explained. And then for the responding to a classmate's post, exceeds is responding to 2 or more, and then meets is responding to 1. And then not yet is not responding. And so I want to go over some helpful hints for this discussion board, and hopefully this will help with the assignment. And so in the question, it says, describe 2 strategies for a caretaker. And a caretaker, the definition of a caretaker is one that gives physical or emotional care and support to children. And so thinking about a caretaker is the mom and dad. It could be whoever's watching the child if the parents are both working, like a grandparent or daycare or babysitter, whoever it may be. So I see a lot of times with this discussion post, a lot of students taking the word caretaker as a babysitter or a daycare, which yes, that is true, but also a caretaker can be the mom and dad as well. So I think one way that could be helpful to look at this assignment is think about a friend that just had a baby, and the baby's a little bit fussier than normal, and so they're coming to you for advice. And they're like, what are some things that I can do to help with my baby? My baby's so fussy. What are some pieces of advice that you can give me? And so thinking about that, what would you say to them? What pieces of advice would you say to them? And then that's what you would use to answer this discussion post. And so thinking about that, you can use the information that you have learned throughout the lessons, and then you could think about maybe some knowledge you have, or even look up some different strategies, and then you can always reach out for help as well. And so I just wrote down some examples to kind of get you thinking about, okay, these are different strategies that could be helpful. So the first one I talk about is swaddling, and I just discussed that swaddling could help with a fussy baby. It could be helpful because it could calm the baby, and wrapped up can remind them of being in the womb. And so describing swaddling, describing wrapped up, I could even add in there what is swaddling. I could say, tightly wrapping the baby in a blanket with their hands down, and that tightness reminds them of the womb. So I could go into more detail about that to make sure I get into that exceeds expectation part of the rubric. And then another strategy that a caretaker could try is to stay calm themselves. And then I talk about how babies can sense the emotions of the caregiver, and that can make the babies emotional. And so staying calm can help the baby realize the place is safe. And so talking about that emotion piece, that yeah, it's hard for us as caretakers in any situation to stay calm if the baby's crying a lot, but that it's really important for us to try to stay calm as much as possible, because when our emotions start kind of going up and getting frazzled, the baby is going to follow us. And then the next strategy that I put on here is white noise, and talk about how white noise can help soothe the baby and create a relaxing environment. And then also how it can help drain out any background noise. And so that can help with the baby relaxing, it can help with the baby sleeping a little bit more. And I could go into more detail about those specific things as well to get exceeds expectation. So those are types of different strategies that we're looking for in this assignment. And so I think it will help to think about, it can be strategies for the mom and dad as well, because then it gives you more of an option, an array of strategies that you can pull from to discuss them. So talking about what they are, discussing why they would be helpful, and then responding to one or two of your classmates' posts.